Hello and welcome to episode number 112 of The Pitcher or the Hitter, the podcast by the M-SABR Dynasty League for the M-SABR Dynasty League. I am Cam,
Sahil.
and we are getting ready for the season. By the time you're hearing this, the 2023 regular season will have started. How about that?
Hard to believe. I feel like the off seasons feel longer and longer each year. Just really have the itch to get back into the thick of the season. It is my favorite time of the year for fantasy, and I am super excited. Um, and I think all of you are as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited. It's going to be a fun season. Last year's ended in dramatic fashion. Jake got his first title, had a first-time winner. And speaking of first-time winners, let's start out this season by giving a hockey update.
Yeah.
It is the hockey
Welcome. First off,
finals.
welcome to episode 9 of Who Cares You Suck.
That's true. This is Who Cares You Suck. Really, they only did 8 episodes. I could have sworn they did like 10 or 11. But
I kind of made up 9. I kind of guesstimated. Let's see how many they actually did. Ah, you're right. They did 11.
did 11. All right. So this is episode 12 of Who Cares You Suck. Um, yeah, it's the finals last week. Zach Betron knocked off two-time defending champion and two-time defending commissioner Andrew to go to his first final, and Alex knocked off Parker to go to his first final. So we've got, instead of a Parker v. Andrew final, we've got an Alex versus Zach final, the 4th seed and the 6th seed. Wild stuff here.
Yeah, well, I guess that means they're the 2 best teams in the league now, huh?
I mean, we'll see about that. Um,
I will
I
say this gives me vibes of season 4 of the Dynasty Baseball League, where you and I thought, hey, we're the top 2 seeds. We're gonna win in the semifinals and face each other in the finals, and then both of us lost. This certainly gave me that vibe.
Yeah, no, a little bit. And it kind of got vibes. Alex's team lost in the semis twice and now is in the finals. That's kind of reminiscent of my team um in baseball. Alex's team beat me in the first round of the playoffs 2 years in a row. He did not get the opportunity to do that this year. A little bit of a monkey's paw for me there, but I don't know who I think is going to win. I just think it's wild what Zach's been able to do with that team, turning it around from. Well, I guess I don't have time to talk about who previously owned this team. So, yeah, who do you think is going to win this?
Yeah, that's a good question. As someone who has not really been following the playoffs as closely as I probably should, I don't really know what their team situations are like. I'm I wish I could root for a double win because I think it would be awesome for either team to win. But I'm gonna go with Alex just because, in the spirit of all the upsets we have seen this month in March Madness, it would be really awesome if a 6 seed wins a championship in an M-SABR Dynasty League. I don't think that's ever been done.
I don't think so. I also don't know of a team that's changed its name mid-season has ever won a title.
Ooh, it's a good question.
I can't imagine.
Maybe Eric changed his name year 1 or year 2. He definitely did at some point. He wasn't always walk it like I balk it. I feel like I don't know when he changed his Stanton Stranglers, but I don't know if that was in the middle of the second season or not. But that's the only one that kind of comes to mind.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure we'll get a comment on that. I'm not sure. I don't know any basketball or football team names, so I wouldn't be able to comment on that. So we're recording this on Monday. Alex has got a hat trick from Matt Boldy already, one of which was a power play goal. So that's definitely a good start to the week. I don't know. I think Zach's got the better team. I think his team has played better this year. He was ahead in Roto all year. During the regular season, they split their matchups. with Zach winning in week 1 and Alex winning in week 17. Yeah, I think you picked Alex. I'll pick Zach to kind of get a split there.
All right. That's I like that. Well, before we shift back over to baseball, do we want to introduce our guest to the podcast?
Um, Actually, our guest was going to be Kenny Hodge, but we've run out of time for him. Sorry about that.
Uh,
We'll get you next time.
we'll get you next time. This has been episode 12 of Who Cares? You Suck.
All right. And we're back to the pitcher or the hitter. Good stuff by those hosts over there.
Oh yeah, really, really good stuff. Probably their best episode.
One of their finest. But yeah, so that's hockey. We've got baseball starting just this week. And we've got a few things we need to do. First and foremost, we haven't given power rankings since before last season. I'm excited to see what's changed here. Are we ready to dive into them, or do you want to give a little overview first?
No, let's do one quick thing before we get into that. We did have a name change.
Oh, that's right.
We did, yes. Andrew agreed to change his name this morning from the Crone Zone or the Cron Zone. I guess it was after he traded away Jake Cronenworth. He is now Reynolds Wrap with his team logo, a nice picture of the aluminum foil company's box, which I guess we need to clarify because not everybody knew that Reynolds Wrap was aluminum foil.
Yeah, well, it's tinfoil to be clear, but
Tin foil, sorry. Yeah.
but yes, Reynolds Wrap is my opponent for week 1 now. This was ChatGPT came up with this name for Andrew, and he liked it so much he decided to keep it. I think that's very nice.
Yeah, I was surprised you didn't take your ChatGPT name of the Walking Red Flags.
Walking red flags. I can't believe it did that. It had a few. It had quite a few Vlad Guerrero theme names for me as well, such as um, Vlad Guerrero Juicers.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. Here's what it said for that name. How about the Vlad Guerrero Juicers? It's a play on words that references both the baseball player Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and the use of performance-enhancing drugs in sports, which is often referred to as juicing. Plus, it's just funny to imagine a team of baseball players squeezing juice out of giant steroid-enhanced oranges.
The fuck? That's amazing. If Vlad ever gets busted for PEDs, you have to change your team name to that.
Yeah, I can be the Vlad Guerrero Juicers. Until then, I could, yeah, the Walking Red Flags. Yeah, I just kind of got roasted there about my players.
You know what? If your team gets off to like an 0-3 start or something, or if you have like a bunch of injuries, I think you have to change your team name to
Oh
that.
God, if I start out 0-3, my season's over because that's the easy part of my schedule.
Yeah, it is. It could be like hockey 2.0 all over again.
God, this season
And
was
you might
just
not
so
even get
miserable in
a
hockey.
lottery pick out of it. That would be the best part.
Oh yeah, everything about this hockey season was just worst case scenario, especially since my players played so well. Um, God, that sucked. But anyway, yeah, I'm not too worried about a repeat of hockey and baseball, but it can happen. Anyone can get unlucky like that.
Let's transition over to the power rankings. I was trying to think of a witty way to transition, but I couldn't. Sorry, y'all. We have ranked these teams 12-1. Cam and I had remarkably similar rankings for, I want to say, the second consecutive year of doing this. Maybe the third at this point. This is about to be the third full season of the podcast era. That's wild. We will give you our 12-5 combined rankings. And then we will each do our individual 4 through 1, which are a little different, and we will give our explanations for why we have those teams ranked where we did. Cam, you ready for number 12?
Let's do it. Yeah, number 12. We had Daniel and Matt again. They finished with the worst record in the league this past year. They haven't won a game since since early of 2022. I really wanted to put them 11th, and I thought about it, but I just think their team's not quite there yet. They are definitely, putting an effort to turn that corner, turn the team around, get some young major leaguers, get some better major leaguers to get out of that last spot. But I'm not buying that just yet that they're out of the last spot.
Yeah, I agree. What I will say is I think they are closer to 11 than they have been in previous years, if that is any solace. I'm not sure it really is. I think I pretty much echo everything you said. I think what they did was a nice start to get their way back into relevancy, but also like it's just not enough. And that's why I still have them at 12.
Yeah, I agree. We'll see. I could definitely very easily see them not finishing with the worst record this year. I would not I would take the field over them for worst record this year, whereas last year I would not have.
Oh yeah, same. At the same time, I do think they could be one of the more interesting trade deadline sellers if things really fall apart and some of the additions they made this offseason did not work. I mean, at some point, I think Nolan Arenado is going to reach an age where they really want to ship him off and he's not going to be part of their next winning team, or maybe like a George Springer, and Ahmed Rosario, some other names like that. So we'll see. It'll be interesting. There were certainly big power players this offseason, so this might be the most interesting their team has been in a couple of years.
I agree. Yeah, I think Jose Abreu is an interesting choice because he's so old to be on a rebuilding team, but I do like the bat there. Tim Anderson's obviously solid. Yeah, I'm not sure I love the pitching. Luis Severino, I'm not super sold on staying healthy. But some guys like Alex Cobb, I'm intrigued by. Dustin May, if he can be healthy this year, could people kind of forgot that he was a solid pitcher before that. And yeah, Taiwan Walker's all right too. Spencer Turnbull could be interesting. A lot of guys that could be interesting. I'm just not sure I'm buying it yet.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, we'll see. It's going to be an interesting season for them. I'm curious to see how they start this season. I think that'll very much dictate their direction.
They've got EBO and Ruthvik at the beginning.
Yeah, I mean they have a prime opportunity to get off to a hot start to the season, and hey, maybe it'll just keep adding from there. We'll see. But let's move on to our number 11 team. We picked Alex and Zach to be the 11th team. It was close. I almost put them last simply because unlike Daniel and Matt, they are they kind of realize that this isn't their window. They are not tanking, but they're not operating under any kind of idea that they're gonna like try and push to win this year, even if they're kind of remotely in wild card range. Or wild card range, we don't have divisions. If they're remotely in playoff range. But I think the big thing for me that gave them the edge over Daniel and Matt was the presence of Julio Rodriguez, who I think one could reasonably argue is the top player in Dynasty Baseball. And also an intriguing group of young prospects coming up, headlined by Jordan Walker, who was killing it in spring training, killing it in the minors, made the Cardinals opening day roster. He's going to be a good one. They have plenty of prospects following behind. I think this team has a really bright future ahead of them if they stay the course of some of these prospects that they have. But I don't think this year's the year. And I've been a little higher on this team in the past, maybe thinking that they could accelerate their window a little bit, but I think I've jumped the gun before, and I'm not going to jump the gun this year.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Um, they don't really have well at the moment their starting catcher is Luis Campusano, who's not a starting catcher. Um, their first baseman with Jared Walsh hurt. They've got Josh Naylor, who's all right, but then Nick Pratto, who's like basically Dominic Smith, as we've said.
Well, he also got sent down to
Oh, he also got sent down.
uh,
So they're that's two positions they really don't have anyone at right now. And then
I
they've
guess
got Ryan
Naylor. I think Naylor's a little better than you're giving him credit for.
he's fine, but like having him as the only first base guy, yeah. So they got to do something about that, which means they're gonna have to add a bunch of guys from free agency right now and demote these guys.
See, but I don't know if they're gonna do that because I think that they really like all the prospects that they have. Maybe there's a couple at the bottom that they can cut, but I think they might just bench some of these guys and hope they're up soon.
Which I mean, that's certainly fine as a long-term thing, but it's yeah, definitely a little bit of a punting this year kind of strategy, or at least punting the beginning of the season. But yeah, um, like you said, Julio Rodriguez is, I think, the best dynasty asset. So having him, it's going to be hard to be the worst team, or it's going to be hard to want to put them at the worst team. I think he makes their future bright. Jordan Walker does, and this farm system is perhaps the top farm system in the league. So um, I definitely see this team having a bright future. It's just not this year.
Do you have any concerns about the pitching staff? I mean, Logan Gilbert, Brady Singer, Joe Ryan, all solid young pitchers, but there's not really a ton of depth after that. Emmanuel Clase is probably the top reliever in baseball right now as well, with Edwin Diaz on the IL. But any
Yeah, we'll
concerns
see.
there?
And I'm not even the biggest Brady Singer fan going into this season.
Yeah,
Um, um, I think I do like Gilbert and Joe Ryan a decent amount. I'm not a big fan of Josiah Gray. Pepio's an interesting guy. Martin Perez was a lot better last year than I thought he was, but or than I was expecting him to be, but I'm worried the wheels are going to fall off at any moment.
I think so too.
There. Um, yeah, I don't think the pitching's super great at the moment. Um, that's okay. And they've got guys coming. Bryce Miller, Bobby Miller, um, should be up relatively soon. Gavin Williams is solid too. Um, yeah, I don't know. Maybe they could trade for one of Ruthvik's guys. I think that could be an interesting fit.
Yeah, honestly, I think that would make a lot of sense. I know that Alex has been offering up Tyro Estrada in trades. And I could definitely see him being maybe an interesting pitcher for hitter swap with Estrada being the hitter.
Yeah, I could see that. But let's move on here. The team we both had at number 10 was EBO.
Yeah, this one's kind of tricky. There's a lot of interesting young players on this roster. I mean, Alejandro Kirk, Spencer Torkelson, Andres Jimenez, Gunnar Henderson, Willie Adames, Andrew Vaughn, like Riley Green, Stephen Kwan. Like if you believe in a Cody Bellinger bounce back, Ketel Marte, like these are all really interesting young pieces. And then pitching wise too, obviously headlined by Spencer Strider and Nestor Cortez. It's a great 1-2 punch. Um, but there's also a lot of question marks with this talent. I mean, Torkelson and Green coming off down years. Kirk is a little bit of a playing time concern now with Brandon Belt there, clogging up the DH. Gunnar Henderson, could hit the traditional rookie wall. Well, I think there's a lot of upside. I wouldn't be surprised if they are on the kind of contending for a wild card. Again, I said wild card again. They're kind of contending for a back end playoff spot. And I could see Zane being a little aggressive if that's the case, because they do have a lot of picks and kind of a lot of extra prospects. Uh, I have a hard time ranking this team based off a potential ceiling that is kind of like the 90th percentile outcome for this season. I think the future is bright. It's the same thing like Alex. I don't think it's this year, but the difference between this team and Alex's team is that most of EVO's top talent is either in the majors or just about to hit the majors. Whereas I feel like Alex's is a little more farther away, and some of the guys that are in the majors are not as established.
And looking at this team a little more closely, I could definitely talk myself into bumping them up a spot or two. I think this team definitely has the highest variance of any team this year. I could see them, well, really the sixth playoff spot and to a lesser extent the fifth playoff spot are kind of wide open at the moment. And I could see, um, if a lot goes right, I could see EBO slipping in. I like Alejandro Kirk a lot. I like Andres Jimenez a lot. I think Seth Brown's a decent back of the bench guy as well. And then it all depends on, hey, is Cabrian Hayes going to break out? Is Andrew Vaughn going to break out? Is Riley Green going to break out? There's a lot of what ifs. And if a lot of this happens, then they're in a solid position to be even like a 5 seed. I think the top 4 feels very like there's a tier break after them, but I could see them being a 5 seed. I could also see I could see a lot going wrong in this team's offense just cratering and being down towards the very bottom. I'll say, yeah, the pitching's interesting, but they don't have a top line guy besides Spencer Strider and maybe Nestor Cortez. Jose Suarez, they should probably just cut at this point
No,
because
I disagree. I think I'm starting to buy in on the Jose Suarez hype train.
I don't know, it's Jose Suarez. That's his whole thing is that you cut him, and I don't know. I think Justin Steele's interesting. Did he make the rotation
I
in
think he
Chicago? Do you?
did. I think he
Okay.
did. Yeah.
Yeah, he's interesting. I think a lot of those Cubs guys. I don't like Steele as much as I like Wisniewski. So I'm
Yeah, the
kind of
Wisniewski
surprised.
hype train is going off the rails
I'm
right now.
I'm fully on the Wisniewski hype train. I was on the Wisniewski hype train before the hype train existed, and I should have got him. I should have tried it harder to get him, and I'm worried I've missed out. Um,
I think you have.
I think I have. I Yeah, I think Wisniewski's the better of the two, and I'm surprised that Steele is the one they've got on the active roster, and Wisniewski's the one that they're stashing in AAA.
I,
Um,
I I think they'll probably end up promoting Wisniewski. I think it's a matter of roster space for them. But they definitely have players they can cut to make room. But that's besides the point.
yeah, I think they've got too many starting pitchers. I think they realize they've got too many starting pitchers. Um, yeah, Zane told me back in February when I reached out about Wisniewski that he's going to hold on to him because he trusts the Duncan front office. Um,
The Duncan front office. I love that.
yeah, um, which is a bummer because he's going to be great this year. Um, it's tough because none of these pitchers are like super cuttable guys either. Um, like you can't cut Sonny Gray, you can't cut Jack Flaherty. Um, I think Patrick Sandoval, I neglected to mention him, but I think he's a solid. He's probably their third best guy. Um,
I'm not a Sandoval guy. The whip is too high.
yeah, I don't think it's absurd.
He
I don't know,
had
but I
a
could see if they want to trade a starting pitcher to say Andrew for a bat or to Alex for Tyro Estrada, um I think there could be something to be had there. But we've talked a lot about EBO. We talk a lot about EBO in general. Any last words before we move on?
No, not really. Let's move on to our number 9 team. We both put Yuki here. Uh, you go first this time.
Yeah, I don't think either of us buy the season Yuki had last year.
No.
I I think 8 and 9 were very easy to flip back and forth, and I almost put Yuki 8, but I don't
We both
really
knew.
trust the pitching that he has, and he kind of caught lightning in a bottle with like Paul Blackburn and some guys like that last year. Um, and like Michaelis had a great year last year, but I'm not sure he's going to repeat it. And outside of that, like I don't really feel too strongly about Zach Plesac. Eflin's all right. And I like Drew Rasmussen a lot.
Yeah,
I'm a
he's
big,
good.
a big fan of his. I drafted him in Gallardo Cup, but yeah, that's it. Like Hunter Brown is, um, he's hurt, but he'll be back at some point soon. He's an interesting young guy, but I haven't seen much from him yet. Wainwright's 40 years old, and he's dealing with an injury right now, and that's his rotation. So, and maybe he can stream some starting pitchers to success like he did last year. But I think yeah, it's hard to win a lot of games and hard to repeat what Yuki did last year without a more strong starting rotation.
Yeah, I think I compared this off air to you to the third season when Ruthvik made it to the semifinals and like came super close to making it to the finals. Like everything kind of went right for him that year. Like Shane Bieber had an elite 70 innings, and DeGrom was healthy for the full season in elite, and it just kind of all came together. And then his team's kind of slowly been on a downturn. That's kind of what Yuki's team kind of reminds me of that, where I think last year was kind of that like 95th percentile outcome. And this year, I think you're right. I think it's just not going to work out as well. I do think this is probably the worst pitching staff in the league. I don't really know how much patchwork is really going to help put this together and into something worthwhile. I think there's some interesting bats here, but like a Bryce Harper being hurt for a good chunk of the year is
Mhm.
not gonna help Yuki. I know he missed like 8 weeks last season with the broken. I forgot what he broke, but he got hit by a pitch and missed some time. Um, but like he's currently supposed to be out until the All-Star break, and like I think there's a very real chance that there's a setback, there's some other issues, whatever, and things just don't work out where he's back in that time frame. So that's an MVP caliber player. I know Yuki's going to have a full season of Corbin Carroll, who's looked awesome this spring, but I don't think there's enough offensive firepower here. Uh, to compensate for a pitching staff that I think is really lacking. Um, that being said, I think I have to put him above EVO, even though I think EVO has more upside because I still have to put some respect on Yuki's name for what he did last season and the fact that most of this group of players, I know there's a couple who have left, couple he's added, were able to make it to the playoffs. So I have to give him a little bit of a benefit of the doubt in my ranking. But I can't. There's a limit to the benefit I can give him, and that's a number 9 spot.
Yeah, I think it's a little different than Ruthvik's 2020 team just because that team felt more sustainable and more on the come up. Yuki's kind of feels more a little more fluky, should I dare I say. Um
Remember when the Giants won like 108 games in 2021, and everybody's like, "There's no way they're going to do it the next year."
yeah.
Like, yeah, maybe that's a better comparison.
Yeah, I think that might not be wrong. Um but that was Yuki's team. I do like some of his bats. Nico Horner, Randy Rosarena, and then Corbin Carroll is going to have a full season here. We'll see what he can do. Um,
Hey,
yeah,
shout out to the Miso man. He signed a 3-year, $35 million extension earlier today.
he did. Good for him.
Yeah, good for him. Uh,
But yes, moving on to number 8, we went back and forth, each of us, um, as to this team and Yuki's team. It is Ruthvik. And I don't think I think this is we've talked so much about Ruth Vick's team. I don't think there's really a whole lot that we need to belabor. Um, there's the pitching is solid, but um, not as deep in terms of names. And I guess he'll probably win strikeouts most weeks due to the quantity of guys, but there aren't a lot of names I like. Um, and the hitting is not good. He has no starting shortstop, no shortstop eligible player. He's got James Outman in one of his utility spots, who is not. I guess he's going to play a little bit.
I think it'll be a platoon bat.
He's a platoon bat, but I mean, a platoon bat isn't someone that you put in your utility spot in a fantasy league. A platoon bat is someone that you kind of either keep an eye on when they're a free agent to see if they become anything more than a platoon bat, or if you have a very deep team already, you put on your bench and uh, put in during specific situations. He's not your utility guy as a starter.
Yeah, but that's Ruth Vick's problem. He doesn't keep any bench bats, so these are the types of guys he has to rely on. I do think, in fairness, this is probably a guy who he was intending to do the exact same thing you just outlined before the injury or the guys got demoted. But yeah, I mean, I know he's trying to trade for bats right now. I really don't know how successful it's going to be.
Yeah, he has no interest in
Especially
Gene Segura. So
how that makes no sense.
yeah.
Gene Segura would be an upgrade over what he has right now. Jesus fucking Christ. Like he just needs any bat right now. You know, he did not prepare for the range of possibilities of Von Grissom and Oswald Peraza being sent down, and they both got sent down. I think Grissom might have been sent down by the time we recorded the last episode, but now we know about Peraza. Like there just was not enough preparation for that. So looking at a bigger picture here, I think there's a really real possibility that this team just bottoms out this year. Like I with the hitting the way it is, with Edwin Diaz now on the now out for the year, you know, the starting pitching maybe not as strong as it's been in previous years. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a bottom three team at the end of the season. And it's a shame because this team really looked like it was on the up and up, and then Ruth Vick stopped doing the things he needed to do, and then the team just slowly started to collapse. And that being said, he was still like a half a game or a game out of the playoffs last year. So I can also see him making it into the playoffs, but I think the team's just trending in the wrong direction, and I don't really have a ton of hope.
Yeah, I think you might be spot on there. But we talk about this team a lot. Let's move on up to number 7, and we put Andrew there.
Yeah, this is a team that's been on the rise the past couple of seasons now, and I think last year I often used the phrase that like, hey, like whatever they use this year as a bonus, like, you know, 2023 is going to be the year. And I think this could be the year of Andrew. I think there's a lot of very intriguing pieces, you know, Bobby Witt Jr., in his second full season in the majors. He showed the power of speed last year. If he could get on base a little more, that would be fantastic. You know, Nathaniel Lowe broke out. Ozzy Albies will hopefully give him a full season after being hurt. Will Smith, Brian Reynolds, Kyle Schwarber, Ian Happ. Like, there's some very solid bats. And the pitching staff, too. You know, Nick Lodolo and Reed Detmers look like they can really break out this year. You know, Kyle Wright had a really good season last year. Grayson Rodriguez is going to be up early. He got Pablo Lopez. It's not the sexiest pitching staff. Like, it lacks someone who I would call like a true ace. But I think there's a couple pitchers with the potential to be that true ace. And I just think like from top to bottom of that rotation, it's all really solid arms that I really like. And I think he's being a little more conscious about building a better bullpen this year, which I like as well. So I'm pretty high on this team. I wouldn't be surprised if they're in the playoffs. Um, Maybe they, fall a game or two short, but I think this team is on the up and up, and I think there's a lot of really interesting pieces here, and I think Andrew can really make a name for himself this year.
Yeah, I agree. When we started the this league, this was the worst team, or when we started this podcast, this was the worst team in this league. And now he's doing a lot better. This team is on the rise. Um, I think he needs like a high on base percentage guy, I would say, to really help his lineup because he put some really low on base percentages together. And I think he's got a lot of pitching injuries to start the season, which hurts. That Kyle Wright injury is a real bummer.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, Kyle Wright's just going to miss the minimum, though. He just needs to be stretched out a little more.
yeah, I guess.
Like
But yeah,
Shishin,
like missing Ranger Suarez. I'm
Cody
not sure how long
Johnson.
he's out. He's just he's not going to be ready for opening day.
Yeah.
Neither's Gonsolin. So there's um it's tough, but I think this is all something that could iron itself out by the middle of the season.
Yeah, I'm not. No, none of those injuries are like super significant. Gonsolin's case, kind of, but it's not an arm injury, so that concerns me a little less. Although I am concerned generally about his ability to stay healthy. But uh, I think this is a really well put together team, and I think Andrew does have a little bit of room in the farm system to make some trades to really make a push. Um, this year if it comes down to it. He's got Terramar Johnson. Uh, you know, if Zach Veen isn't coming up and contributing, maybe he's a trade chip. A South Relic could contribute, or if not, could be a trade chip. So um, I'm really excited for this team. Andrew, you got a good one.
I agree. So we are cracking the top six now. Um, Number six, we have Anthony, and I think this is a team that I knew I was high on, but I was not expecting you to feel the same way about.
No, you really turned me on to Anthony's team, and I think we've been talking all off season about this starting rotation, and I'm really excited for it. I mean, Sandy Alcantara was a big acquisition there. I know he had to got I know he had to get rid of Kyle Tucker to do it, but that's a nice ace to add to the rotation. Christian Javier, Alec Manoa, both really dependable aces, although I am a little concerned about Manoa's drop in velocity this spring. Hopefully, it doesn't come back to bite him too much. And hopefully, he kind of gets that back as the season goes on. But that's definitely something to monitor. And Javier, really broke out last year. And I think he's going to continue that this year. Freddie Peralta, is a really solid number four if he could stay healthy. He's definitely shown some flashes. Andrew Heaney, as much disdain as I have for him, he really showed some growth last year with the Dodgers, and if he can stay healthy, he could be pretty good. Mackenzie Gore still has a top prospect pedigree and should get some run. I know he's got some interesting pitchers sitting in the minor leagues too. Gavin Stone's there, Brandon Pfaadt. So that rotation is really nice. And then offensively, Jazz Chisholm, O'Neill Cruz, Xander Bogaerts, Mike Trout, I think are all really solid high-end names that really set the foundation for this offense. I think Sean Murphy and Rowdy Tellez are solid complementary pieces. I think Alec Thomas could take a step this year. I do think it lacks a little bit in depth, but I do think that the pitching overcomes that lack of depth. And I do think it's the difference between a team like this one and a team like Ruthvik's at 6, as I think that the pitching is a little deeper and there's a little more depth in offense, even if Ruthvik's a couple of his top end guys might be a little better. Like this feels like a better version of Ruthvik's team.
I think so. I think, yeah, I like a lot of the bats. Sean Murphy, Spencer Steer. I'm hoping for a breakout. Of course, Mike Trout. I
Yeah, I'm
think, yeah,
really hoping for that Mike Trout breakout too. I don't know if it's going to be this year or not, but
yeah, maybe one of these years. I think, yeah, the outfield isn't super deep. But if Alec Thomas breaks out, if he has a good year, he's expected to play a lot. Um, I think, yeah, as we talked about last episode, I think Grandal is going to be gone from this team fairly soon. But yeah, I like the pitching a lot. And I think this is it's a young pitching staff he's assembled. So I could see it being, if not this year, then next year it being even more improved.
I agree. I will say that this ranking could be a bit aggressive. I at different points had Andrew above Anthony when doing my rankings. I think Andrew's team might be the more well-rounded team, but I think Anthony's is a little more star power that Andrew's team lacks, especially in the rotation. And that's something I'm willing to gamble on a little more, especially with, some of Andrew's pitchers already coming down with injuries and some of them like Grayson Rodriguez, struggling a little bit in the spring and getting sent down to AAA. So, but it's close. I certainly think these teams kind of in the 6 to 9, 6 to 10 grouping are all pretty similar.
But yeah, we're moving out of that now. And number 5, kind of by default, is Connor's team.
Yeah, Connor had a very quiet off season. I know he's been crazy busy with work. Hope that's been going well, Connor, if you're listening. It's still a solid team, but he didn't take the next step in the way that like I think Jake's team did when he kind of, burst through the scene this year. I definitely think it's a playoff team. I wouldn't be surprised if Connor doesn't make the playoffs, but I also think he's more likely than not to make the playoffs. He's already dealing with some key injuries. Reese Hoskins tore his ACL. Trevor Story's on a 60-day IL. We just got news right before the podcast started that Tristan McKenzie is going to be out for a couple months. And that pitching staff is kind of really thin now. I mean, Justin Verlander, Robbie Ray make for a solid top 2, but like Giolito has question marks. Same with Kopech. Merrill Kelly's probably a regression candidate. I'm not sure why he's rostering Kyle Gibson. So it's a decent but not amazing pitching staff. And then I think some of his bats are due for a little bit of regression as well. Mainly, I'm thinking like Paul Goldschmidt, but still got some high upside guys in the outfield, and Eloy Jimenez and Luis Robert Jr. And if they stay healthy, same with Buxton, maybe this offense might be a little better than I'm giving it credit for. That being said, with still kind of big stalwarts like Paul Goldschmidt, even if he's might regress a little bit, and Marcus Semien, I do think this offense has a certain floor that will keep his team competitive.
Yeah, I guess first and foremost, I didn't know Luis Robert was going by Luis Robert Jr. now. So that's interesting. I'm not the biggest fan of his with the swing and miss in his game, but I think you've basically covered it. It's a fine team, and I think he's kind of in that 5th spot by default because I can't really imagine putting him any higher than that, but I also can't really imagine putting him any lower than that either. It's kind of a big year for him though to see if his team has staying power towards the top or not.
I agree because a lot of his top players are getting older quick. I mean, Sal Perez, Paul Goldschmidt. I think the window is kind of shrinking, and he doesn't really have the farm assets anymore to necessarily go out and significantly upgrade the roster. I think there's a couple interesting prospects, uh,
Mhm.
but not maybe some of the depth that he had in previous years that allowed him to acquire somebody elite talent that he did. So I think you're right. Either he really makes that push this year, or this team just might start to kind of head downhill, and it might be time to rebuild for the next cycle, or retool.
hmm Yeah, we'll see what ends up happening. But we're cracking the top four now. And this is where we kind of differ. Um,
Yes.
yeah, I put you at number four. I think I think the top four was so hard to do a ranking between, and I feel like I don't know. You missed the finals last year for the first time in a little while. Well, no, for 2 years in a row now. Um, I'm not sure I love your outfield situation. Yelich is not the Yelich of old. He's not going to give you a ton of power. Nick Castellanos really struggled last year. Um, you got Trey Mancini. I'm not super confident about Tatis. He's going to miss the first month of the year,
20 games.
first 20 games. Um, Yeah, Max Muncy's getting a little older. So I'm not, you've got a lot of big names, certainly, but I'm not the most confident in all of them. I think Adley's going to be great for you. And Trey Turner, having a full season of him is good. Um, and the rotation is certainly good. Having Zach Gallen for a full year is going to be huge. Um, I love Max Fried. I think you got a great rotation. I'm just, I don't know. I think I like the other three teams a lot at the top two, and it's kind of hard to rank them. But I don't know. I thought it'd be fun to rank you fourth and see what happens.
Fair, get some shock value. I think it's certainly fair. I'll preface all of this by saying, like, it's a coin flip. I thought of a number of different ways to do this ranking. It's very narrow. You could justify putting any of these four teams at number one, and I wouldn't argue it. You could justify putting any of these four teams at number four, and I'm not going to argue it. It's just, I won't even say one, two, three, and four as much as I'd say it's like 1A, 1B, 1C, and 1D. I did put Jake at four. And the reason I put Jake at four is that, well, I think the offense is insane. Not just from a talent perspective, but it's also very young. Machado, Seager, Bichette, Tucker, Alvarez, Harris are kind of all Matt Olson as well are kind of all in that like 25 to like 30, 31 range. I mean, that's just fantastic. I'm really concerned about the pitching. Uh, this is a rotation. I lost Sandy Alcantara. Granted, again, I know it helped land him Kyle Tucker, but still, Carlos Rodon's going to miss what looks like the first month of the season. And I've always been skeptical about his ability to stay healthy. He's already missing, Raisel Iglesias for a while, Frankie Montas for most, if not all, of the season. So I'm just not that sold on the pitching. And I just think, if a healthy Rodon, if I'm granting him that, makes Blake Snell his fourth best starting pitcher. I think, the fourth best starting pitcher and the other three teams that I have in the top four are all significantly better. I think the gap in the rotation is enough of a tiebreaker for me to put him at number four. But this is not a knock on Jake's team. Like, he won a championship. Like, I get it. I saw him beat me 3 times last year. This is a very well put together team. And I really commend Jake for the job that he has done and joining the league, a couple of years in and really putting together an awesome team. And I have no doubt that he's gonna, make some trades or make other moves to keep this team competitive. But for me today, with the rosters that I have in front of me, it's the lack of starting pitching that has me put him at number 4.
Yeah, fair
Yeah.
enough. Moving on to number 3 this is where I put myself. Um, and again, I don't know where to rank any of these teams, but I guess I'll just talk about how confident I am in my team currently. I Aaron Judge obviously isn't going to hit as well as he did last year, but he's still going to be one of my top guys. Very excited in Juan Soto bounce back. He may miss a little bit of time at the beginning of the year, but he's going to carry my on base percentage, score a lot of runs at the top of that San Diego lineup. Vlad Jr., obviously. Lindor was great last year. I'm kind of really buying into Brendan Donovan too, especially
Mhm.
since he's got that try eligibility. That's going to be huge. Masataka Yoshida, my draft pick. I'm kind of on the aboard the hype train for him as well, with that on base percentage. Well, there's Jared Kelenic, who I'm really hoping this is the year he breaks out. He had another great spring training. And then yeah, I'm happy with my pitching staff. Having a full season of Framber Valdez and Jordan Montgomery is going to be great. My bullpen without Liam Hendricks is a little iffy. But I still like Clay Holmes as a closer. So I'm not super anti it. But overall, I think I'm maybe um a cut below some of the top teams in the league, but I think I'll definitely be competing for that to get back to the finals.
Yeah, I also put you at 3. I think there's a really good core here with like Vlad, Lindor, Judge, Soto. I do think there's also pitching wise as well. I think Wheeler, McClanahan, Darvish, Valdez, Kershaw, Montgomery is like a great core, like top 6 starters there. I think Tyler Mahle will have a better season in Minnesota, in a better ballpark. I just feel like the difference for me with your team and the teams I had ranked above is I don't like some of your complementary pieces as much as you do. I think they are very good. Um, Number 2, I don't think your rotation is as deep as the 2 teams I have ranked above you, which I guess is pretty obvious now is me and Eric. So um, that was a difference for me. But I'd be remiss too. I'm surprised you didn't mention it. Like Anthony Volpe will start the season with the Yankees. You have some, interesting young prospects that are going to come up. So that's always with the way that you build your farm is going to inevitably, mean that your team has. How do I even phrase this sentence? I just started talking and didn't know where I was going. It there's upside. There's upside from your farm in a way that, like, for example, my team does not, because I just trade away prospects a second they snip the majors. So I'm really excited to see your team this year. You finally, got over the semis hump last year and made it to the finals. And I would not be surprised if you're in the finals again this year.
Yeah, I could definitely see myself making it back. I guess only time will tell. And we're starting very soon. I think I've got a favorable schedule this year to get me there too. But yeah, up to
We
number
all
2. This
basically
is
play the same teams. What do you mean a favorable schedule?
I don't know. I guess I don't have to play myself. That's that's favorable.
Touche. Okay, I'll give you that.
Um, yeah, number 2. And I have an early, good, easy start to the season, which helps. Number 2. This is where I put Jake, though. I think Jake's probably the 4th best team, but in a power rankings, it's hard to put the team that just won the
What
finals
does that
down
mean?
at.
A power rankings is literally a ranking of how you think the teams like are going to do, like how you rank how good these teams are. It's not a ranking of how last season's playoffs went.
I mean, a little bit. The power ranking kind of include you kind of have to include like how the teams have done too. It's not
No,
just a
no, no. I get
of
that. I get that. But
like a
but
how
like
team.
you're basically erasing what happened the first 20 weeks last season. You're boiling it down to the last 2 weeks of the season.
I don't know. I just think this team performed better where it counted at the end of the year, and I think that's kind of what I think that's part of what goes into a power ranking. Um,
Yeah, but that can change from year to year. That's can be partially random. You could put certain teams playing other teams and just flip flop into weeks that they had played, and all of a sudden it looks different. It just feels like you're just kind of painting a weird narrative that like doesn't have to do with the quality of the team as much as like, hey, this is how they did over a 3 week period or 2 week period because of Jake had a bye.
I mean, I don't know. I think a power ranking isn't just how good a team is on how good every team is on paper. I think you got to kind of take into account what happened, and that's
Okay,
part of
so
the power
so
ranking.
so 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 by your logic, every year we do these power rankings, the top two teams are going to be the teams that were in the finals and the team that were in the semis because you have to take into account that both of those teams won good semis matchups.
I mean, the team I have number one lost in the semis to the team that I put third.
I don't know, man. I think your logic in constructing a power rankings is flawed. Even after Super Bowls, like when immediately after that, all the NFL writers will post their like early power rankings for next year. They don't just have the two Super Bowl teams, 1 and 2, like every single year.
I don't know. Um I think you got to include this and give a little credit here.
Uh,
I think that's
it,
part of
it,
what
it
goes
would be
in.
one thing if you thought he was the second best team on paper, but you just called him the fourth best team on paper. So that makes no sense to me. But go ahead. I'm not going to say anything else on this.
All right. But anyway, I do like a lot of the pieces on this team. I think Bobichet's still solid as a fantasy player. He's going to steal bases. He's going to score a lot of runs and drive in a lot of runs in that lineup. Matt Olson, I don't know why ESPN is projecting him to hit 40 home runs. That's kind of insane. Well, I think, yeah, it's a weird projection, but I think, yeah, I'm not. I think he'll be fine this year. I think Jordan Alvarez absolutely tortured me all of this past season, and he is going to be. I think he's going to go off again. There's nothing stopping him from putting together another season like his last one. I like Michael Harris a lot too. I like Tristan Casas. I think he'll be sticking in that utility slot. He's got a lot of first baseman, very first baseman heavy team. Um, yeah, I agree. The pitching kind of is a little tricky. Once Rodon is back, and that shouldn't be too much longer, that'll help a lot. I don't know. I think, yeah, number two is where I put this team.
Yeah, I put myself at number two. I mean, I'm taking a more holistic view, right? I still finished as the top roto team last year. Over a 20-week sample. I'm not taking an arbitrary 2 week sample and saying that's the end all be all like you are. Um, because I have Adley, I have Freddie Freeman, Tatis once he gets back from a suspension, Trey Turner, Pete Alonso, Mookie Betts, like a lot of these names he didn't even mention. It was Cedric Mullins, right? Like, yes, there's a couple of guys at the edges here who you mentioned who maybe are not like my best bats or they have some questions. I think Muncy just saying he got another year older is just kind of a lazy analysis. He actually ended the last 2 months of the season kind of hitting like the Muncy of old after recovering from the elbow injury. And I think there's a lot of reason to be more optimistic about him this year than there was last year. In
How
fact,
many years older though is he than he was last year? Just out of curiosity.
he is 1 year older.
Okay, there you
Congratulate.
go.
I hope that makes you happy. Um, and I granted, I get there's just going to be a couple of these guys that I think I'm just higher on than you are on than I just like get. But I think you're selling short somebody's bats here. And I think the rotation's very good. I mean, Cole, Nola, Woodruff, Fried, Urias, Gallen, that's an elite top six. Jeffrey Springs, the hype train is really taking off. He looked really good in spring training. Sean Manaea had some
Brings
added
training.
velocity. Springs training, thank you. I think the Felix Bautista, Giovanni Gallegos, Alexis Diaz trio should be a nice trio top the bullpen. I even have a couple of prospects if I don't trade them away. I'm interested in, being able to promote and see how they do this year, looking at Colton Cowser and Jordan Westberg in particular.
All right. So there is just one team we have left. We both put Eric number one. Um, Eric was the number one seed last year. He kind of lost to me twice at the end of last year, but I don't think that hurts his team too much the way we're looking at it. He'll have a full season of Vinny Pasquantino as an everyday guy, which is something I'm very excited for. Everyone loves some Vinny. Jose Ramirez obviously is spectacular. Lars Nootbaar, there's been a lot of hype around him. And yeah, I think the rotation is going to be great. Hunter Green is going to have his another full season here under his belt. I know I like Dylan Cease more than you do.
Not
Um,
a fan.
George Kirby. Yeah, so his team is just it's good. His rotation is young too, at least some of his top guys, and his farm system is a top three farm in the league. So and especially with all of his guys in his farm being close to the majors, I think this team, even if even if some guys like Meneses and Michael Massey and Tyler O'Neill kind of flame out, then I could see he's got a lot of guys to step up and fill in, and I think he's the front runner again this year.
Yeah, I call him the front runner as well. I think I give Eric the benefit of the doubt with some of those guys you mentioned, the O'Neills, the Meneses, because I think he'll just do a great job of replacing them. It's funny how you talked about Vinny P and Ramirez and just didn't even mention Shohei Ohtani.
Oh my God, I guess I didn't. It's hard to he's hard to find, with him being you don't know where he is on the roster. Yeah, he's got Shohei.
Yeah, and then Wander Franco as well if he plays a full season. I'm not as high on him from a fantasy perspective. I think he'll be a better real life player than a fantasy player when it's all said and done. But um, he he's very talented and I think Eric's put together a really good roster. And I think he does as good of a job of managing as anyone. So. Again, it's close though. You, me, and Jake finished with the same winning percentage in the regular season, and Eric finished with a half a win more. So I mean it's close.
Yeah, no, it's super tight. I think these four teams are at the top, but I could see it really being in any order.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So those are our power rankings. Anything else you would like to say before I ask you some other questions about the 2023 season?
No, let's get into the questions.
Yeah, so last year I had Cam and I do predictions. We did over unders based on a number of wins that teams had last season. I made a couple adjustments last year to each team's over unders and make it a little more interesting. This year, I decided just to keep them the same as last year's records, partially for consistency and partially just the lack of time. So let's dive right in. These are in the reverse of last year's standings. Daniel and Matt over under 2 wins.
I think I got to take the over here. There's no chance they only win 2 games. They're not only are they better than last year, I think that only 2 wins from last year is unlucky anyway. I wouldn't pick on it. I wouldn't bet any team for 2 wins.
Agreed. Yeah, I think that was kind of a on the range of outcomes. It was probably like a 20th percentile outcome last year. I'd also say that they look like they're going to be a little more active this year, and the major league team has been improved. So I'll take the over as well.
Mhm.
EBO over under 5 wins.
I'll take the over. And with the worry that maybe I'm taking too many overs to start, I'll take the Bailey over on them too.
Ooh,
Um,
the Bailey over.
I think they have enough upside that I wouldn't be surprised to see them win well, I wouldn't be surprised to see them push 500. I also wouldn't be surprised to see them hit the under either, but um, I'd take the over.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty easy over just because I think there's enough young talent on this team that's going to push them above the over. Even if not all of these guys hit, I think that 5 win threshold is going to be pretty easy for them to beat. That being said, I could easily see a scenario where it's like we win the over, but it's like 6 wins. So that wouldn't surprise me. Uh,
Mhm.
Next over under at Alex and Zach over under 5 wins.
I think I will take the under on this team. I'm not super confident, and I'm not sure they're planning on fielding a team. I think they're tanking. I'm not sure they're planning on fielding a team that's going to be all that competitive anyway.
Yeah, same. I'm going to take the under as well. I don't think this team's going to be competitive. I think there's some individual pieces that are going to be very good. You know, we talked about Julio Rodriguez and Jordan Walker, but I think the lack of depth combined with the fact that I think they want to use some of these extra bench spots to hold on to guys that are not necessarily contributing in the majors at the moment, whether they're, in AAA, but they're using a major league spot as a prospect spot, or they're just not getting a lot of playing time. Um, I think it's going to be the under. I don't think under means like 2 wins like Daniel and Matt had last year, but I think it might be closer to like a 4-16 season.
That would make sense.
Yeah. I think I know how we're going to answer this one, but Anthony over under 7 wins.
I'll take the over. I think he gets 10 or 11.
Yeah, I'll take the over as well. I still don't know where they're going to finish. I still think ranking them six might have been a little aggressive, but I think I could see this team finishing like anywhere between like 8 and 11 wins. That wouldn't surprise me. I do think 7 is a reasonable outcome as well, though. I wouldn't go too much below that, but a scenario where the offense really just doesn't take off, O'Neal Cruz kind of falls flat on his face. Jazz Chisholm deals with injuries again and underperforms. Like I could definitely, and if Alec Manoah's velocity drop is a legitimate, is because of legitimate injury and/or Freddie Peralta's hurt again, or Christian Javier isn't quite as good as he was last year, or Sandy Alcantara regresses a bit. Like I could also see 6 or 7 wins as a possibility.
Yeah, that's certainly something that could happen.
Yeah. Andrew over under 9.5 wins.
Ooh, over under 9.5. I think I'll take the slight under. I think I could see 9. I think the top four are gonna push. Top four teams are gonna push win totals up for themselves, which means that like the median team is going to. I think the sixth playoff team is going to have fewer than have a below 500 record, and I think Andrew's in that mix. Um,
Ooh, that's a hot take.
yeah, I mean, I don't think it's that hot of a take because in theory, uh, the last playoff team has about a 500 record. Yeah, I'm gonna take the under, but it's gonna be close.
I'll take the push. I I think Andrew's probably a 500 team. Um, if we're not projecting him as a playoff team, then I have a hard time definitively saying it's going to go over, but I don't think it's going to go under. Already, as I'm saying this, I take that back. I'm going to go over, but like barely. I think this is going to be exactly a five.
Barely, barely
I,
over,
yeah,
barely over.
yeah. Jesus Christ. I love that. I think it's like a 10 and a half win team. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like I think this is like a 9 to 11 win team. Uh
Yeah, that sounds about right.
yeah. Uh Ruthvik over under 11 and a half wins.
Under, easy.
Yeah,
Don't even really need to explain it.
no. Let's just move on. Connor over under 12 and a half wins.
I think I'm realizing now that there are 22 games, not 20. So maybe I'll switch my Andrew pick to the push.
Okay.
Yeah, there are more games than I thought there. Yeah, because last year there were 20. There, um, this year there are more games. I think I will.
Pretend this is on a 20 game pace then, and then we can adjust for that. Just just assume this is a 20 game season.
nah,
Hypothetically.
because then that kind of changes.
That's going to change all the answers. Let's just pretend it's a 20 game
I
season.
think that makes too much work for us, and we're going to forget that that's what we decided. But I'll take the under for Connor.
I'm going to take the under for Connor as well. I think he's going to fall close. I think this is probably more of an 11 win team than a 12 and a half win team, especially because I think some of the teams around him got better. Whereas Connor didn't make any moves this offseason, number one. And number two, he lost like Reese Hoskins and Trevor Story to injuries. So yeah. I have him at the under. Yuki over under 13 wins.
Yuki's an easy under.
Yeah.
I don't need
we
to
don't
say
need to
too
say
much more
anymore.
there either.
Yeah. This is where it gets interesting. I'm going to group these next three teams. I'm going to put all four of these teams together just so you have some context when you're giving these rankings. You, me, and Jake are over unders 13 and a half wins. We all had the same winning percentage last year, and Eric's is 14.
Ooh. I think it's interesting because on one hand, I think there's going to be more separation of the top teams compared to everyone else. So which will kind of more like 2021. I think that'll kind of drive the win totals up of the top teams. So I think it'd kind of be hard to give an under to any of these teams. What were the
13 and a half for Yumi and Jake, and Eric was 14.
I think I'll take a push for Eric. And I think I'll give myself the over, Jake the under, and I'll give you the over also.
All right. I'll give you the over. I'll give Jake the under. I'll give myself the over. And I'll give Eric the over. And when I'm saying like overs for like Yumi and Eric, I mean, I think they might be like 1 game overs. Really, like I don't think it's going to be a ton. I gave 5 teams unders and 7 teams overs, but I think the difference is some of the teams I gave the unders, I think they're going to drop a fair amount. Like I think Ruthvik's dropping a fair amount. I think Yuki's dropping a fair amount. I think Alex is going to shave off a win or two. I think Connor's going to shave off maybe like 2 wins. Whereas I think a lot of these teams I gave an over, I think are going to be barely over.
Yeah, I think that all seems fair.
Yeah, you gave 5 unders and a push, or sorry, 6 unders and a push, and you gave 5 overs.
Yeah, it's hard to tell what to do with these teams. And maybe I'll I don't know. I think it's gonna be the top teams beating each other up a lot more than it was last year.
That's also true. Wasn't there a pair of top teams, I think, for example, only played each other once I know, like, for example, I didn't play Daniel and Matt a second time last year, so my schedule is a little harder. Like, I think there's a couple little quirks like that to the schedule that don't appear this year.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of that, but I think it's also the case. I think there's going to be more separation between the top teams in the next tier also that than in previous years.
I want to say yes, but I also think I thought that last year and then just like shit happened. So I I think that could easily be the case. And I think it probably should because like I think for example, Connor at the fifth seed was like a half game back. I don't think of like the top four teams. I don't think the fifth seed is a half game back. But also like I don't think it's gonna have as significant of an effect as you might be making it out to be. So we'll see.
I guess we'll find out.
All right, so those are our predictions for the over-unders for wins. I do have a few more questions. These are all repeat questions from last year, just tailored to this coming season. Repeat playoff teams over under 4.5.
I'll take the under. I
Ooh,
think no, I'll take the over. I think Connor gets in.
this is a tough one because there's four obvious teams and we're kicking Yuki out. I mean, it really comes down to whether or not you think Connor's a playoff team again. Um, I'm going to take the under. I think it's close, but I think someone else sneaks in.
Mhm.
Uh, it would be easy just to predict the same teams making it over and over again, but that's rarely what happens. I think it'll be four. Number of trades. Last year, the over under was 44 because we had 20 in 2021. We had 44 trades. During the 2022 season, and this is regular season only, doesn't include off season, we had 63 trades. So are we going to have more trades in a regular season than last year? Yes or no? The number is 63.
I'm going to take the under. I think we're all getting a little busier. And I think Gallardo Cup is going to at least be somewhat of a distraction and taking away a little bit of our trading potential in this league.
I disagree that the Gallardo is going to take away our trading potential in this league, but we did make a lot of trades this offseason, as is. 52. 63 was actually the most that we had ever made in a season. The previous high was 61. I think the number is going to be in the 50s. Like, I don't think it's going to be too much less, but I think it's going to be less. I'm going to take the under as well. Most trades during the season. Last year, I asked this question. And the question was just most trades during the season. This year, to mix it up, since I kind of mixed it up last year by not picking myself, just to be fun, I said most trades during the season. That's not me because otherwise, I think if you're taking me versus the field, I think we both picked me.
Mhm.
uh, but who do you think it is?
Um, I am going to say Jake. I think Jake is going to tinker with his team, especially if he's like not at the top. I could see him definitely uh, deciding to make some drastic moves. He's already traded away Stephen Kwan, who was his matchup MVP during the finals matchup. So I could see him moving on from some of his top guys. Maybe not his top guys, but I could see him making some bigger moves and making a lot of moves if things aren't perfect.
That's interesting. I think that's very fair. Although I don't know if I see it because I think Jake makes impactful trades when he does make trades, but I feel like he's more of a quantity or a quality over quantity trader. I'm going to say Andrew because I think Andrew is at that precipice right now where if he makes a little bit of a push, I think that could get him into the 5 or 6 seed. especially if some things break right for his team. And I think he's going to really take advantage of this opportunity and launch himself into the playoffs. Or attempt to. He's never been a playoff team before, so I think there's going to be that extra motivation as well. So give me Andrew. All right, we're almost done here. Last year we did semis over under for the 4 semifinalists. We're going to do the same thing again. Semis over under for Jake.
I will take the push.
Okay, I will also take the push. Semis over under for Eric.
I will take the over.
Okay, I will also take the over. Semis over under for you.
I will take the over. I'm going to predict a me versus Eric finals.
All
Because
right.
it's got to happen eventually, one of these years.
I will take the push, which means you are pushing or undering me for the semis.
As much as I'd love to do the under right now, it's a push.
All right. I'm gonna put myself at the over, but I'm also gonna revise what I had previously. I'm gonna put Eric as a push for semis, and I'm gonna put you as an over for the finals.
Oh, now that would be toxic.
Over for the semis. Oh my god, it would be toxic. I would be congratulating you on your victory like every 20 minutes. I would set alarms throughout the night every 20 minutes to send that chat to you.
I think I might rather lose in the semis than deal with that. I don't think I'm joking either.
No, all right, good. That's good to remember. Maybe it'll be a good thing if your team is like clearly better than everybody else this year. I'm gonna push you out. But we didn't ask this question explicitly last year, but I'm gonna ask it here. Who wins the league?
You know what? I'm going to take a cue from you, and that thing you do that always works in your favor, and I'm going to pick Eric to win the league.
Oh, okay. I was going to pick you to win the league, and this is actually something that's been several days in coming. And I know that I have kind of jokingly told it to you, but there are a lot of good vibes surrounding your team right now with Volpe and you know some of the other guys that you have who have been either had really good springs or they're coming off injuries, but look really good. And I don't know if you're necessarily the best team in the league, but I think this is finally. I think it's your turn to win a championship. So, congratulations on winning the league.
I respectfully decline.
I
think you're not wrong about that, and I think if hopefully my bad luck in hockey it was for the sake of getting some good vibes in baseball. Because it had to be for something.
Had to be for something. I just hope that bad luck continues. All right. Last question. I'd say the most important question of this. Number of Yuki catchers. The over-under last year is 6.5. The over-under this year is also 6.5. Yuki is currently rostering 3 catcher eligible players. He has Cal Raleigh, Tyler Stevenson, and Dalton Varsho, who I know he's probably not really going to catch for the Blue Jays this year, but he is still catcher eligible, so he counts.
You know, my brain says it's got to be the under because it hasn't felt like a big Yuki catcher. I feel like maybe he's gone a little bit away from that stereotype. But I don't know. I think it's more fun if I say over. He's got if say he uses all 5 of those guys, that's just 2 streamers during the year. And maybe if he's got those guys, he's not going to use streamers at catcher, but he did last year, so I'll take the over again until it misses.
I'm taking the over as well. We both took the over last year, and last year he used at least 8.
I think 8 was the final total.
Okay. So Dalton Varsho, Mike Zunino, Tyler Stevenson, Diaz, who I'm assuming is Elias Diaz, Christian Vasquez, Austin Nola, Carson Kelly, and Jose Trevino. And we did this right after he traded Real Muto, who he traded to Jake, like literally like days before the season started. So I think this year's is an even more obvious over. His new thing, interestingly enough, might be Philly DH only players because he has two, Bryce Harper and Derek Hall.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Derek Hall.
27-year-old first baseman with a lot of swing and miss in his game, but a lot of power.
That name, I gotta say, that name is brand new to me.
He DH'd a bit for them last year at different points. So I think when Harper got hurt last year, he came up.
Okay. I had never seen the name Matt Vierling until the World Series either. So
yeah, Matt Vierling's a Tiger now. Okay.
yeah.
Oh my God, Yuki has Matt. Why does Yuki have Matt Vierling? Oh my God, his roster makes no sense. Okay, that makes sense. I love you, Yuki. Somebody else's roster in his league makes less sense to me. I think we all know who it is. But it's finally time. It's been a long time since we've been able to do this. Are you ready to do a matchup preview?
Let's do it. Week 1 preview. Here we go. Matchup to watch. It's I think it's an obvious one. It's you versus Jake. Week 1. A bit of a rivalry forming between the two of you, I would say. And I mean, 2 semis teams from last year, 2 of the top 4 teams. Very easy choice.
Yeah, I think this is the easy choice. Definitely going to be an interesting matchup. I wouldn't be surprised one way or another what happens. I know Jake had my number last year, and I'm excited to come out swinging this year. Interestingly, Jake and I have played before on week 1 of the season, and we did that in 2021, and I won that matchup en route to sweeping him that year. He swept me last year. We'll see what happens this year.
Yeah, we will see. Are we ready to get into predictions then?
Yeah. We for the listeners' perspective, given that we just kind of went through each team doing the power rankings, we're not going to break down each matchup this week. Or we never broke down.
We never break down each matchup. We only break down the matchup to watch.
We only break down the matchup to watch, and then we would review the matchups that had happened. Yeah, this is it's been so long since we've forgotten our format. Oh God! All right. Nothing for your benefit then that you need to know. Then you all got it down pat. All right. Let's do the picking. My favorite part of the episode. Last year, I finished 88, 48, and 1 on this season. You finished 89, 49, and 0, which we handed out some bonus points. We did categories in the finals, and picked those categories, as well as also picking who won and the score. And we did some different awardings of points based off of that. And all right, you narrowly edged me in the predictions last year after I got you in 2021.
All right, so we'll see. Is the rubber match of years.
Rubber match of years. Dare I say, this is the most intense part of each week. Screw the actual matchups. This is what I look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
But as our reigning champion, I'll let you pick. Do you want to go first, or should I go first?
I think part of the deal is that I go first as the winner, so I'll take that burden.
Take that burden. All right,
Um,
go ahead.
all right. So I think that I will beat Andrew. I think um that Anthony will beat Alex. I think I'm going to pick, the bellies to upset EBO. I don't think I've ever picked the bellies in any matchup. I think it'd be fun to do so right now.
Oh,
Um,
let's see. I'm curious.
I
Um,
don't think either of us have ever picked the bellies to win a matchup.
no, we did. We both picked them to beat Alex and Zach week 6 last year. Then
Okay. Well, I'll
that's
pick him to win week 1 here, and we'll see how badly it ages.
it. That was the only time we picked them to win. So we were, which means we were like 19-1 in picking their matchups last year.
My God, hey, we're some smart people, but I think I'm gonna pick them this week. I think Connor is going to beat Ruthvik. I think Eric's going to beat Yuki, and I think you're gonna beat Jake. Um, you're the designated home team. You've got home field advantage. Um, wait, no, I pick a tie every week. That's gonna just be my tie of the week. How about that? I forgot that's the thing I do.
Fair, yeah. All right. I will pick Eric to beat Yuki. I will pick Rusvik to or Condor to beat Rusvik. Um, I will pick Anthony to beat Alex. Hmm. These other ones are interesting. I'm gonna pick EBO to beat Daniel and Matt.
Mhm.
I'm gonna pick myself to beat Jake because his pitching situation right now. But I think it'll be close. I'm gonna pick a tie of the week as well.
Mm.
It's a surprise tie. I'm gonna pick Andrew and you to tie.
Oh no.
uh, yes.
That is a bold tie,
It's a
with
bold
Andrew
tie.
having like 3 healthy pitchers.
Yeah, you might be right.
But hey, that's what this is all about. I'm not going to talk you out of doing worse in the prediction contest.
I can talk myself out of this though. What healthy pitchers does he actually have?
And we're out of time. Picks are hot.
No, I'm not Kenny Hodge. Don't Kenny Hodge me. Fuck it. It would be more fun if your team shits the bed, so sure.
Well, there you have it.
Well, we have now officially reached the end of our off-season podcasting, another great off-season of episodes. So before we go, I have one question for you, Cam. What was
Oh
your
boy.
favorite episode that we recorded this off-season?
Ooh. Favorite episode that we recorded this off season. Let me try and remember what we did this off season. A little quieter of an off season than we've had in the past, but that's okay. It's a um, busier time. I think I thought the Mount Rushmores were a lot of fun. That was a cool idea for a segment. It looks like that was, yeah, also the episode where um, we talked about that rule change with the 2 consenting teams. I also had a lot of fun hosting podcast trivia. I think that was kind of fun. I like the questions that I came up with for that.
Yeah, podcast trivia is always fun. Yeah, I think you picked some really good episodes there. I have two in mind, since you know how much I love trades. Our 100th episode, definitely a highlight. That one was just the whole preparation, everything that went into it was like such a giant shit show, but it was an amazing episode, and I am so glad we did it. That's gonna be one of my favorite episodes forever. But also the episode that we did breaking down the trades around the draft, like that was like just like trade after trade after trade, and they're just all like big significant trades, and you had multiple 3-team trades, the DeGrom being part of one of them, and other big names just kind of casually getting tossed around. That one was really fun, and you know how much I like talking about trades, so I'm gonna pick that. But I'll also say I did love defending my trivia championship and topping Eric once again.
Yeah, you did once again. Yeah. Yeah, I liked the podcast trivia just because I got to ask different questions about things that weren't on the regular sheet. But yeah, that's it for the off season. Good luck everyone in 2023. Season number 6 of the league. Here we go.
Season number 6 of the league. Yes, best of luck to everyone. And next time you hear from us, we will all have a win or a loss on our record, or maybe a tie. We shall see.
Yeah, one of those. But yeah, see you then.
See you then.
One spring morning, 6 years ago, felt the shadow strangle home. In the hallway, hung up the phone. I heard my mother, please come home. Within my heart, my spirit cold. Leaves the
This podcast is good.